This is your daily dose of all things royal. Imagine tomorrow morning you grab your phone, log into WhatsApp or Instagram, and suddenly a notice appears. Verify your age. Submit identification. Your messages may be scanned. This isn't dystopian fiction. It's Britain in 2025 under the Online Safety Act, one of the most significant new laws to pass Parliament early in King Charles's reign. Now here's the twist. The king had no choice but to give it royal assent. By law, he must sign every act of Parliament. But while ceremonial, the optics matter, especially because his son, Prince Harry, has been across the Atlantic pushing nearly identical legislation in America. Father in Britain, son in America, both linked to the same controversial cause. So, is this a shield to protect children? Or a blueprint for unprecedented internet control? Let's go ahead and break down this law. The Online Safety Act hands Ofcom, the UK's communications regulator, sweeping powers to govern online content. And here's how. Age verification. To access adult material, users must provide government ID. Platforms must check ages, raising privacy concerns about databases of millions of IDs. Risk assessments. Tech companies must constantly evaluate and document how their platforms could expose users to illegal or harmful content, from terrorism to self-harm content. Then there's end-to-end encryption threatened. Messaging apps like WhatsApp and Signal may be required to scan encrypted chats for harmful content. Privacy advocates warn this creates a backdoor, weakening security for everyone. Then there are the massive penalties, fines up to 10% of global turnover. For Meta, that could mean tens of billions of dollars. Supporters say it's necessary. Critics say it's a surveillance state in the making.
Protecting children. Do you buy that?
I don't, and the American companies that we have been speaking to have laid out the case. Their legal teams have been battling on many fronts now over the last couple of years on just that issue of censorship and trying to kind of curtail whatever they're putting up online. So I think right now what you're going to see is a continued fight kind of step by step to make sure that this doesn't creep into America and is not something that we need to be worried about in the House of Representatives.
So you might be wondering, why bring King Charles into this? Isn't royal assent just ceremonial? Yes, since 1708, no British monarch has refused a bill passed by Parliament. Charles had no legal power to stop it. But here's the nuance. Every law passed carries the seal of the crown. The moment Charles signs, it becomes the law of the land. In the public eye, the king's name is forever tied to the act. So while ceremonial, the symbolism is undeniable. Early in his reign, one of the most consequential bills to bear his signature is about controlling the digital world. And the irony deepens when we look at Prince Harry.
See the online world as a space for profitability, competition, and rapid growth.
Prince Harry lashing out against social media, criticizing online platforms. In a new online essay for Fast Company, the prince writes, "The digital landscape is unwell," describing the crisis of hate, a crisis of health, and a crisis of truth. Many of us love and enjoy social media, Harry says, but warns the cost is high. Every time you click, they learn more about you, adding, "In this ever-changing digital world, we are the product."
In the United States, Prince Harry has positioned himself as a global advocate for online child safety. He's spoken at the Clinton Global Initiative. He's joined nonprofit campaigns warning about the dangers of social media algorithms. And he's urged lawmakers to pass stricter digital safety laws, often citing tragedies involving young people harmed by online content.
Thank you. This one across the city, almost every parent needs to be first responder. And even the best first responders in the world wouldn't be able to tell the signs of possible suicide. And that is the terrifying instance.
Harry frames the issue as moral. Protect the children at any cost. So when Charles ceremonially assents to Britain's Online Safety Act, it isn't just a UK story. It aligns with his son's chosen cause in America. Two continents, two very different roles, one shared agenda.
First Amendment to the Constitution. We're concerned about free expression here in the United Kingdom and in Europe, but we're primarily concerned about the impacts your laws can have on American citizens. Under the First Amendment, American citizens enjoy 5 fundamental freedoms: your right to practice your faith, your right to assemble, your right to petition the government, free press, free speech. I tell people all the time, the most important of those 5 liberties is the last one, our right to talk. Because if you can't speak, you can't practice your faith, you can't share your faith, you can't petition your government, you can't criticize your government, and you don't have a free press. That is the most fundamental right we have as free citizens.
Behind the politics, there are real human stories. Take the case of Molly Russell, the 14-year-old who took her own life after consuming self-harm content on Instagram. A coroner ruled that social media contributed to her death. Her case shocked the UK and became a rallying cry for stronger regulation. Now, across the ocean, similar stories fuel Harry's campaign. U.S. parents testify about losing children to dangerous TikTok challenges or bullying driven by online harassment. It's emotional, it pulls at the heartstrings, it's heartbreaking, and it gives governments the momentum they need to push sweeping laws. But critics warn laws made in moments of grief can have consequences far beyond their intent. Civil liberty groups, digital rights advocates, and even some lawmakers say the Online Safety Act opens Pandora's box. Defining harm? Much of the law covers content that's legal, but deemed harmful. So who decides? Today, it's about children. Tomorrow, it could be about politics or climate. Threat to encryption. Experts warn, once you break end-to-end encryption, you create vulnerabilities criminals and foreign governments now can exploit. Then there's the chilling effect. Platforms may over-censor to avoid fines, deleting controversial but legal speech. And then there's Ofcom's powers. One unelected regulator now holds unprecedented authority over Britain's digital life, which now is bleeding over into American life.
We do have a duty, and I think that narrowly tailored regulations designed to protect kids are appropriate and absolutely necessary. But what we're seeing with legislation like the Online Safety Act, the Digital Services Act in the EU, is something very different. We are seeing a rising tide of censorship in the West. We see it in the EU, we're seeing it in the UK. We saw it in the US as well over the last few years, but we've turned a corner in our country in large measure thanks to the work of the Judiciary Committee under Chairman Jordan's leadership. And so we're here to dialogue with those who are fighting for this shared tradition between our countries here in the UK and in the EU, because this is, when it comes to a liberal democracy, this is the whole ballgame. You can't have a functioning liberal democracy without robust protections for freedom of speech.
Charles had no choice but to assent this bill, but the law now carries his name, forever tying the monarchy to these sweeping new authoritarian powers.
Is freedom of speech dead in this country?
I'm not across the details of the particular case, but let me give you the principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country, and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
This isn't just a British issue. The EU's Digital Services Act already demands content moderation. Australia enforces some of the world's fastest takedown laws. Canada is debating similar online safety bills. And in the United States, Harry's actively meeting lawmakers and child advocacy groups. What begins in Britain rarely stays in Britain. Historically, UK legislation often influences global standards, from data privacy to financial regulation. So the Online Safety Act isn't just about British kids. It could shape the future of the internet for everyone. In the news, big tech is already scrambling. WhatsApp and Signal threaten to exit the UK if forced to break encryption. Apple, they warn that scanning devices sets a dangerous precedent. Meta faces billions in potential fines. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most platforms are going to comply because losing the UK market isn't an option. This means the internet, you know, is about to change. Not just in Britain, but worldwide.
You look at recent history, it seems to me many times the biggest purveyor of misinformation, disinformation is the government. I mean, just look at during COVID in our country. I think just about everything the Biden administration told us about COVID turned out to be wrong. They told us that, the virus didn't come from a lab. They told us that the vaccinated couldn't get the virus. They told us that the vaccinated couldn't transmit the virus. They told us masks worked. They told us 6 feet social distancing was based on science. They told us that this was the first virus in history where there's no such thing as natural immunity. So when you look at history, typically it's the government who gives all kinds of information that is not accurate. And the idea that you're going to go after political speech, Kevin is right. We don't want harmful material getting to kids, but there's a big difference between that and political speech and criticizing the government, for goodness sake. So we're very concerned about that, and that's why we're here. That's why we did our investigation last Congress, to point out the attacks on free expression and on free speech.
And this just brings us back to the irony. King Charles, bound by law, ceremonially assents to one of the most powerful internet regulations in British history. Prince Harry, unbound, freely campaigns in America for the same principles.
Our laws and regulations are different state to state, country to country. We may have different backgrounds, viewpoints, beliefs, and even access to the internet itself. But the one thing that we can universally agree on is the safety of our children.
The father's signature is ceremonial. The son's advocacy is deliberate. But together, the message is global. The digital Wild West is over.
Why are you here getting yourselves involved in British affairs?
Well, we're first and foremost protecting our own citizens because we've seen very specific examples of where suppressing speech actually impacts American citizens. And there's also this sort of globalizing effect, call it the Brussels effect, and certainly augmented by what's happening in the UK, where platforms are forced to change their policies in a pro-censorship direction that impacts citizens all around the world. And so at the end of the day, I think it's important that our allies, who we have so many shared values with, stand with us as we fight against forces that exist elsewhere in the world that are very much opposed to freedom of all kinds. And I think there's a lot more that we have in common in the way of values than divide us at this point. And I think these conversations are really healthy for everyone involved.
So, what do you think? Is the Online Safety Act a necessary shield to protect children, or a dangerous step towards mass surveillance and censorship? Do you support Prince Harry's campaign in America? Or do you fear the same outcomes we are seeing in Britain? Drop your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for future breakdowns, because the battle for online freedom is literally just beginning.
Such a fraud.